Thank you. I'd like to call to order this Monday, December 11th, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting. If everyone could please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah, if you could please call roll.
Ms. Payne?
Here.
Ms. Corporal?
Here.
Ms. Kane?
Here.
Mr. Kizak?
Here.
Also in attendance, Township Manager Ms. Steely-Cools, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Assistant Township Manager Mr. Valla, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Barbarilla, Director of Building and Zoning Jim Ennis, Director of Finance Mega Bondry, Director of Parks and Recreation Paul Capera, Chief of Fire and Emergency Services Mark Antozeski, Superintendent of Public Works Eric Gartenmeyer.
Thank you. Our next Board of Supervisors meeting, reorganization is scheduled for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. We have some special items tonight. I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence for Langhorne-Middletown Fire Company's life member, trustee, and past president, John Scheetz. This evening, we mourn the passing of John Scheetz, life member and former president of the Langhorne-Middletown Fire Company. John sadly passed away last week after a lengthy battle with cancer. John dedicated an impressive 32 years of his life to service to our community, leaving an indelible mark on the fire company and the lives of those he touched. John also served as as a Langhorne Borough Councilman for 16 years. He lived a life like no other and was a dedicated family man. Our thoughts and condolences go out to his family and the Langhorne-Middletown Fire Company during this difficult time. So now I'll ask that you please join me in a moment of silence to honor John Scheetz. Thank you. We also have a special recognition for the Zoning Hearing Board member, Mr. Mike McGuffin. I'm honored to recognize a member of our Zoning Hearing Board, Mike McGuffin. Since January 2019, Mike has been a steadfast and committed member to the Zoning Hearing Board, dedicating 4 years of his time and expertise to the betterment of our community. His tireless efforts have not gone unnoticed, and today we acknowledge and celebrate his contributions. Mike assumed the role of chair for 2 of his 4 years on the board, and under his guidance, the Zoning Hearing Board navigated complex issues with wisdom and a commitment to fairness. Thank you, Mike, for your selfless service and the positive impact you have had to our community. I did want to also note that I do see some zoning members in the audience. I didn't know if anyone wanted to come up to the mic to say anything.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ernie Peacock. I'm the chair of the Middletown Township Zoning Hearing Board. And if I'd known I was going to be speaking here tonight, I would have dressed for the occasion, but I hope you'll forgive me the more casual appearance. Mike has been truly an incredible resource on the Zoning Hearing Board for me personally. When I first started, he was a mentor to me and guided me through the onboarding process, if you will, and made me feel a welcome member of the board. His knowledge, his wisdom, and his humor will be missed, and we would like to wish Mike McGuffin the best from here on in whatever tasks and other opportunities that he chooses to undertake. Mike, we will miss you, and we thank you for your service. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. We also have a special recognition for Fire Marshal Don Harris. It is my honor to recognize Don Harris this evening as he prepares to retire from service to Middletown Township. Don was hired in January of 2022 as our interim director of fire and emergency services after serving more than 4 months as a consultant. During his tenure, he assisted the township in the implementation of fire services strategic plan. He led the department in implementing new software for tracking inspections, equipment, and fire reporting. Under Don's management, the department applied and received FEMA and state Pennsylvania grants for fire turnout gear and breathing apparatuses. Don also took steps to improve the use and occupancy permit inspections, fire prevention inspections, and public education programs. Don transitioned to the role of fire marshal when Chief Antozeski was hired in February of 2023, where he conducted fire investigations, fire inspection, and plan reviews. As Don officially retires on December 31st of 2023, we express our deepest gratitude for his invaluable contributions and wish him a fulfilling and well-deserved retirement. I know Ms. Tealy-Cools also has some words she would like to share.
Well, I was fortunate enough to meet Don in the summer of 2021 when the Department of Fire and Emergency Services was in crisis. He brought with him a long and distinguished career. He had an incredible reputation in the county. He was simply a trusted public servant, and he was exactly what we needed to get through that difficult time. After only a few months, he agreed to stay on for 1 year at the time, 1 year, and we appointed him interim director. He stabilized operations. He led his team through a complete rebuild. He assisted the township, as Chairperson Payne noted in the fire services study, the implementation of the strategic plan. He even helped to recruit his replacement in Chief Antozeski. And at that point, Don, being Don, agreed to stay on to help for yet another year of transition. For me, I would say what I think the most significant contribution that Don made, really as an honest broker, was to help rebuild the relationships with the volunteer fire companies in our community, and that was really invaluable. His expertise, his integrity, his depth of knowledge were invaluable to me as township manager. And so, Don, I want to thank you. Your impact is going to be felt for years, and I wish you the best in your retirement.
I know Mr. Valla also has some words he'd like to share.
Yeah, I also wanted to echo everything that Stephanie shared. I also want to thank you, Don, for coming in at a very critical time. I think like many of the people that you have helped over your very long storied career as a 50-plus year volunteer firefighter, as well as your storied career as a career firefighter and supervisor, I think you were the hero we didn't know we needed at the right time. And I can also say, as a professional, I don't know that I'll ever get an opportunity to work and supervise somebody who is 44 years my senior, and that was probably one of the best experiences I will ever have in my career moving forward, and I just wanted to say thank you for all that you've given back to us in such a short period of time.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I know the chief also has some words he'd like to share. So.
Hey, pal.
How you doing?
All right. So we all had great words for Don. There's no way I could repeat all the different things he's done for me and for the township, so I wanted to thank him personally for hanging out with us for the last few months, getting me transitioned into this position. If I may, I'd like to go ahead and read what the plaque we're going to present to you. So as Fire Marshal Don Harris, congratulations on your retirement from Middletown Township Department of Fire and Emergency Services for your dedicated and distinguished career in all Bucks County Fire Service, presented this day, December 11th, 2023. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to get a picture with the officials? Yep.
I actually wanted to take a second. I noticed there's a lot of members from the various fire companies here. I didn't know if you guys wanted to get a picture with Mr. Harris up here on the stage. We won't get in it, but I think, I just wanted to offer it out there since you guys came out today. You've been working with him over the last couple years. No pressure, just thought I'd offer.
All right, I got all of you. Thank you.
We know you didn't pay for it. You didn't pay for it. Until kickball season in the spring.
Okay, at this time, I will ask for public comment. If there's any comments from the public, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Looks like I'm the only one, huh? Bob Feather, 35-year Middletown resident. I live in Highland Park, 96 to be exact, Highland Park Way. I'm not going to go into great detail about the numerous issues which have been brought to your attention over the past few years because you are very familiar with them through the several letters, several emails, and correspondence that we've had over that time. I want to start out tonight, and I'm not going to go into, again, great detail. I want to start out by saying, first of all, I'm a reasonable man. My neighbors and I are reasonable people. We understand that we live behind a shopping center, and we have some things that we are going to have to deal with as a result. That being said, reasonable being the key word, there are certain situations and certain things that we have been dealing with over the past several years that are unreasonable. most of which you are all familiar with. However, over these past several years and all of these things that have been brought to your attention, nothing has changed. The only thing that we've ever had from you, I'm going to say that in that way, just is a meeting between our township manager and the management company of the shopping center June 9th, if I'm not mistaken, to be exact, of 2022, a year and a half ago. After which, nothing has changed. Now, we've looked for communication. Let me digress a little bit. The only reason we came to you is because we've been in communication with the shopping center management, we've been in communication with the management of Redner's, and we've exhausted all of our resources in order to get things to change to where we can actually live in our homes in a peaceful way, not in a manner in which we can expect for every other resident of Middletown Township, because again, we realize we live behind a shopping center, so that we understand we have to make some concessions. But again, nothing has changed. We've had several issues and several concerns about numerous things. I'm not going to go into details. However, I am going to say that we did receive a letter of readings made by the township engineer, noise readings. Let's start there. Our concerns are not just noise, but also air pollution, noise pollution, and obviously trash, all of which you are familiar with because you've had numerous emails, numerous letters from us indicating all of these issues. Let's start with the noise. I have a letter in front of me from the township engineer about readings that he had taken over a course of 6 days. Now, in our ordinance 320-101, it states, in areas of the township zoned residential as defined by blah, 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 decibel levels are not supposed to exceed 75 dBA between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., 55 dBA between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. There's additional issues outlined in this ordinance where these conditions are being exceeded. And in the township's, the engineer's letter, basically, he's saying that they are in violation. And let me see if I can find this actual quote, because you did say that. They are in violation of these decibel readings, and some of which, again, I'm not going into detail here. The readings themselves were not taken in accordance with the ordinance that we have. And the only reason I say that is because the ordinance states that we should take these readings 30 feet, no less than 30 feet from the noise generation, and these readings are taken more than 100 feet from those parts or from those locations. Anyway, I'm getting a little nervous here, and I apologize. I'm just, this is tiring. It's getting old. It's been years that we've been dealing with this, and all we're trying to do is just live in our homes, open our windows when we need to open our windows without getting exhaust fumes and the excessive noise. Now, I've gone and I've taken these readings, which have exceeded 82 decibels when you're standing 30 feet from the generation of this noise, okay? Not 100 feet, not across the street. There's 3 locations outlined in this report that are over that 30 feet. All we're asking, and all we've ever been asking for you to do, is be a liaison for us. Communicate with the people that can help make these changes so that we can just live in our homes peacefully, normally, some quality of life. That's all. But nobody seems to want to do anything. Nobody is doing anything.
Just for a second, I did want to bring up one point. We did also send the police department out to monitor the situation, and there was a report written, and that was, I believe, within the last 6 months. I know that the engineer also coordinated with you about times to go out to do these decimal readings.
Again,
So I just want to, for the record, for folks at home to think, you know, the rhetoric that you're saying is we're not doing anything, but we are trying. And I understand your frustration. And I believe that we have had some communication, and we can reach out again to the folks that are in charge of the shopping center. They did agree to do some improvements to the back, and we can work on finding information out about that to see where that has landed. But I just want folks at home to know that we have tried to, you know, come up with a solution, but we keep coming up that things don't match up to exactly what you're transcribing.
not true.
Can I,
And therein lies my
clarify
point.
part of it as well, because I think it's important to have the line after the one that was quoted, read from the report. Mr. Feather is correct. It does say that when we did the noise measurements, there were times when it exceeded the decibel level. The next line is the delivery trucks only exceeded a decibel level of 55 decibels while arriving and departing from the loading dock. An excess noise disturbance was not recorded as the delivery trucks were being unloaded. So when they arrive into the shopping plaza, they park in the loading dock. When they start up again to leave, that's when those higher measurements were taken. But I just wanted to clarify that because I do think that's an important part, the sentence after the one that was pointed
So
out.
let me be very clear. One of our concerns, and one of the largest concerns, was the fact that the refrigeration trucks, the refrigeration tractor trailer trucks, sit in the loading bay, running for an hour, at least an hour on end, running at high RPMs.
They're not allowed to unload in the loading dock before it's open. in the
Really?
morning.
It's
Correct.
funny you say that because I'm awake at that time in the morning every morning.
Yes.
And almost every morning there is a refrigeration truck that's sitting in that loading dock that is running there at high RPMs, and you have not stated in here that you've taken any readings of that. That is our biggest issue.
There
That's
may
our
not have
biggest
been a
concern.
refrigeration truck there the morning that you had us go out there, but I will say
I didn't
this,
have you go out there
is
at
that
any time.
we
I
just
asked
said
you to
the same
contact
thing.
Redner's and find out when they were delivering so that you could coordinate that. I never asked you and never gave you any time specific.
I just wanted to clarify that the people that we've been coordinating with, the shopping plaza being your main point of complaint of when they're able to have these trucks unload in the back of the shopping plaza, if they're not open and the trucker arrives, he sits there and he waits. Now, they're not allowed or not supposed to sit in the back, but if no one's open and no one's there, the shopping plaza has pointed out to us that they do not open those loading doors before the time that they open with their staff in the morning for safety reasons.
Which is 6
So
a.m.
it's the trucker
6 a.m.
Issue if they arrive and park out there until it is safe to unload.
6 a.m. is when Redner's opens their loading dock. Right.
So if the trucker,
So you
if
have
the
a-
trucker arrives before that and he doesn't follow the instructions to not park in the back, that's what you're talking about.
That's part of it. That's not all of it. You're not listening to me.
I don't know if the chief actually wants to come up and
Can
talk
I
about
finish,
the-
please?
I didn't know you were still going.
Really? The trucks come in around 5:30 in the morning. Now, whether they sit there or not, because the loading bays are not open, isn't actually the entire issue here. You have the refrigeration trucks at 6 o'clock in the morning that are sitting in a loading bay, idling. The entire truck is idling with the refrigeration unit running at high RPMs, 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, have you taken a reading from 30 feet away as outlined in our ordinance, decibel reading, to see what that is from 30 feet away to determine whether or not that exceeds our ordinance requirements or not? The answer is no, based on what your report says.
If they're within the property, to take the measurement inside the boundaries of the property
Okay,
where
so
they're doing
stand
the
at the
business
curb
is
on the
not
other
the
side.
ordinance. That's not how the ordinance is set
Do you
up.
know how a speaker
Mr. Feather, I
works?
want to give
You know what?
the
This
chief
is getting...
time to speak.
I don't want to reiterate what we've already studied.
6 o'clock in the morning is unreasonable.
I'm just trying to
7
clarify
o'clock
it
in
so
the
that
morning is what our ordinance
what you're
says
stating
before
is
those
actually
decibel
accurate
readings.
to what
Mr.
we've
Feather,
done to this point.
with all due
You guys,
respect,
man,
I
this
just
has
want to
been
give the
years,
chief,
and you're not doing anything.
that's not entirely true.
It
I
is
do want to
entirely
give,
true.
that is not true. I want to give the chief time to speak, because he did, his team did go out in detail based on those hours.
You know what? You guys, it's incredible that you don't want to do anything.
That's not-
Enforce
that's
your
not
ordinance.
entirely
It
true.
is entirely true. This report that I have in front of me doesn't say anything about the concerns that we
Mr.
have.
Mr.
Wait,
Feather,
wait a
with all-
minute.
with
Let me
all due
just-
respect.
I apologize. All due respect.
With all due respect, please let the chief comment on some of the things you were saying, so we can all get clarification on where we left
You know
off.
what? I just have one last thing to say, and I'm not going to bother you anymore today. I just left my house, and there's a stop sign right there at Hartwood and Highland Parkway that's almost laying on the ground. Why? Because we have tractor trailers that are driving through our neighborhood, and nobody wants to put up signs, and nobody wants to do anything about the lack of signage to keep these tractor trailers from coming through our neighborhood. Nobody wants to do. We have a tractor trailer. You know what? You guys are unbelievable.
So, Ms. Payne, I'll just say to you and also to Mr. Feather, it would be great if, when you actually observe the violations, call us. I do. Okay. Because our truck enforcement officer was out there 6 times in June. I have the emails from him, and he never actually saw trucks idling or the refrigeration units idling. If he would have, he would have done a full truck inspection and issued violations. I mean, we do hundreds of truck inspections annually, and we issue tons of violations. We put a lot of trucks out of service. He went out there specifically at my direction to look specifically for the problem that Mr. Feather has cited. So what we will do in the future is, I'll give you my cell number too if you want to call me, but you can call the police department when you observe a violation, and we will get right out there. I'll make sure that all the patrol squads know it, and I'll also make sure that our truck enforcement officer continues to go out there periodically. It's difficult with his work schedule. We only have one for him to, or we have 2 now, but we really have one that does the bulk of the work to go out there every day, but he will continue to make periodic checks as needed. Any questions from the board? Mr. Feather, you have any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Good, okay.
And we also can send an email out to the shopping center to try and find out where they stand with some of the things they committed to do. Are there any other public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. I would accept a motion for approval of the consent agenda item as stated.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items as stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the board?
I just had one question around the ADA ramp project. It looks like there's a change order for reduced quantities. Are we still doing the same amount of curbs, just less costly per curb?
Correct, the same amount that we had. Actually, we did a little more than originally scoped. The negative change order, usually it's pavement, curb, sidewalk, quantity related. That type of work, there's always a little bit of a buffer built in case they have to go back a little further to tie it in. And they did not have to do that in a lot of locations, so resulted in a minus at the end.
Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you. Next is consideration of approving Chick-fil-A preliminary final land development approval. Mr. Murphy, I believe, is presenting on this.
Evening. I'm Ed Murphy. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I think everyone in the room should be well familiar with the nature of the application. We've been pursuing it for quite some time. In the big picture, it is going to replace the Ruby Tuesday vacant restaurant in the front quarter of the Lowe's parking area. It is a project that has been previously reviewed and approved by your zoning hearing board and by most recently your planning commission. I know that there's been a lot of heartburn over a year ago, a competing proposal in a different location that had a lot of community interest in it, and I think everyone feels well pleased now that the alternate location not in that particular area that has met with favor is now in front of the board for approval. So I know the township is not in favor of having empty buildings anywhere. Ruby Tuesday's been vacant for quite some time, and Dick Wilkinson, the developer owner of the property, is here tonight, and he will tell you how pleased he is to finally get something back on a rent roll if he can get this thing over the finish line. So, happy Dick's here, other consultants are here, happy to answer any questions, but I think we're in good shape. We've pretty much addressed all the township concerns through the various review letters we've received to date. So.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I just want to say I'm glad to see the change in location for the empty Ruby Tuesdays to now have something that's going to stay there for a long time, I assume.
Right.
Just based on my observation of the one by the Sesame Place.
I think my one question is, again, we all know how much queuing happens with Chick-fil-A. How many cars are we able to get into this queuing before it starts kind of backing up into the parking?
44.
44, so I guess 22 in each lane.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You're going to be sorry you asked, because now he's
No,
going to
that's
come
fine.
up and
This
he's
is-
going to talk.
Good news.
My name is Richard Wilkinson, Wilkinson Development. Actually, the parcel that owns this is Wilkinson Langhorne Limited Partnership. The 44 that was the answer to you a moment ago is only on the property that I own. However, the way we designed the traffic flow, it can back up all the way down to the driveway nearest to the entrance to the project, the signalized entrance, because when you come in the front signalized entrance, you make an immediate right turn, then another immediate right turn, and it allows you to queue all the way to the depth of the, and I can point it out better if I walk over there maybe.
You're on your own. Here, hey.
If you can go back to the full show. So what I'm referring to is the traffic will come in. It will be directed by signage to make an immediate right turn. If they're going to the dining room, they go straight ahead. However, if they're going to the drive-up, which is 85% of the business, they turn here or here, and they get in the queue here for this entire length before they get into the 44 spaces. So it's been our experience, nobody's going to back up.
Are there any other board questions?
No more questions. Again, I would just, it's, drive-throughs have been the only thing that I've approved up here as a board member. So if there are any developers out there that want to come and bring family restaurants that could replace Ruby Tuesdays or like it to Middletown, please do so.
If there are no other questions, I'd accept a motion to approve.
I'll move to grant land development approval for 1440 Lincoln Highway S/LD number 23-08 with the following conditions. Applicant shall comply in full with all requirements of the Middletown Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance and the Middletown Township Zoning Ordinance unless relief is granted by the body having jurisdiction. And two, any remaining review comments shall be addressed in full.
It's been a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Mr.
Great,
Murphy.
thanks.
Have a nice holiday.
You do the same, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Consideration of approving the advertisement and bid to replace the wooden deck on the south side of the barn building located at Middletown Community Park. Mr. Capera.
Good evening, Madam Chair. The Park and Rec Department is before the board tonight to ask for approval to put a project out to bid. The project is to replace the wooden deck on the south side of the barn building located within Middletown Community Park. The timing for my request tonight is twofold. The first is because of the sensitivity of our summer rec program, we're trying to get this work done between mid-March and mid-May. The second is that if we put it out during the winter months, when contractors are slower, we get more good looks and hopefully more and better bids on the project itself. Before making a motion, does the board have any questions for me?
I guess, and we have $125,000 budgeted for this project.
That is correct.
And do we, I guess, you know, this is a deck that was put up in 2002.
Correct.
Is it normal to have to replace kind of a deck within 20 years of it being put up?
So a couple of things. Building codes have changed. So our code enforcement officer, Mr. Tom McCool, did note when we were actually doing the roof a couple years ago that our 4x4 handrails were not up to code anymore because they had been notched out. Second is that on the hangers that hold up the ledger boards are starting to rot away. And this is holding up a addition that was put in along with the deck, and our 300 kids run around and hang out there and have lunch underneath there. So just basically, could it last another year or two? Absolutely, but from just a safety concern issue, the timing was right to do it this year.
I'll accept a motion.
Authorize the advertisement to solicit bids for the new deck at the barn at Middletown Community Park.
It's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any other board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes, carry 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Capera.
Thank you very much.
Next is consideration of authorizing advertisement for requests for qualification or an RFQ for professional traffic engineering services. Mr. Valla.
Good evening, thank you. This is really just a housekeeping item. The township has appointed traffic planning and design for about the last 6 years, has been our traffic engineer of record. We've had a very positive experience with them from the staff perspective. This recommendation is really, number one, a best management practice, since it's been a few years since we've gone out to competitive bid for traffic engineering services. And number two, and really the primary driver, is we are undergoing some PennDOT grant-funded projects, and some guidance from PennDOT recommends that if you use an in-house engineer for design, that they be competitively appointed within 5 years, and we are exceeding that. And so this is really just kind of a belt and suspenders recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. Are there any questions from the board about it?
And I would just, I guess my question would be is, again, best practice means that we would go to RFQ just to make sure that we're kind of in a competitive environment for our traffic services. And two, when was the last time we did it kind of for all of our professional services? Like,
I'm going to say 6 years-ish, but I can confirm specifically.
okay, that's all.
If there are no more questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move to authorize advertisement of a request for qualifications for traffic engineering consulting services.
It's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Are there any other board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, excuse me. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have consideration of approving a memorandum of agreement between the Police Benevolent Association and Middletown Township. Ms. Tealy-Cools.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be able to report to the board this evening that we have reached agreement with the police union for a 4-year collective bargaining agreement. We are in an agreement that will expire at the end of this year. And so this agreement would memorialize the terms of the settlement, and we will be working to have the actual contract language finished up and signed before the end of the year. So the high points of this collective bargaining agreement with our police union for the 4 years, 4% wage increases, a slight change to the shift differential, addition of a 6-week maternity leave for birthing mothers, memorialization of the Juneteenth holiday, the slight increase in deferred comp. But I, for one, would like to thank the police union for working shoulder to shoulder to get this done. I think it reflects a very good contract for those officers that serve the community day and night, and it is within the budget that you will hopefully be approving one agenda item away. Maybe I should have reversed them and had you do the budget first, but happy to answer any questions.
I know this was a long kind of process for everybody involved, so I just want to say thank you to the folks who helped make negotiations end at this point here, where everyone gets to walk away with a little bit of something. So thank you for everyone's hard work on this.
This is a 3-year or
4-year?
4-year deal.
If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve a memorandum of agreement with the PBA of Middletown Township.
I'll second.
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Chili-Cools. Next up is consideration of approving the 2024 budget and budget resolution. Ms. Chili-Cools.
Thank you very much. I can report that the budget has been advertised. It's been available on the township's website here at the township building. It's been available for public inspection at the appropriate number of days according to the second-class township code. So it is ready for your approval this evening. I don't know if you want me to get into any of the highlights, but I would just say, you know, it allows us to continue to provide a high level of services to our residents. There is an increase in the real estate tax that is dedicated to fire services, a slight increase, about 1.4 mils, which equates to the average resident of about $49 annually. So it is an increase, but it is not that huge of an impact to our residents. You have a resolution in your packets this evening that, should you want to move forward, your motion would be to approve the 2024 budget and to approve Resolution 2332R.
Are there any questions from anyone? If there are no questions, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 budget and Resolution 23-32R.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions?
I just want to say thank you for all the hard work. I know this was a huge endeavor, and I know we have a small increase in taxes, which we obviously don't like to do, but we tried, you know, to keep it at minimal, and it's really important for our fire services. So I'm happy with the outcome, and I hope our residents are as well.
Yeah, I want to thank Ms. Teoli-Cools, Mr. Valla, Ms. Bendari, everybody that was involved in the budget process, all of my colleagues on the board. It is always a long and difficult process putting together a budget, and this year was no different. But I'm pleased and I'm proud that we are presenting a budget tonight that will allow us to keep our volunteer fire companies strong and viable and fully funded, which in turn helps keep the residents of this township safe.
I just want to echo the sentiment of my colleagues as well. You know, that, like Ms. Corporal said, an increase is something that, you know, we're all also raising our own taxes as we're all also township residents. But it's for the good of public safety. You know, when you have an emergency happen during the day or at night, you want someone to show up. And the minimal amount of increase cannot compare to the life-saving efforts that we are talking about for our residents. So I just want to commend everybody that worked on it, including all the fire companies, my colleagues, Supervisor Kane and Supervisor Kizak, on the very heavy lift of, you know, working with everyone to get an apparatus agreement. That was super important, and it reflects in this budget. So I just want to say thank you. With that, I would accept a motion. Oh, we already did that. I'm sorry. You know, are there any other questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes carry 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Valla, whose consideration of approving Resolution 23-33R, adopting the multimodal improvement plan.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Payne. I'm actually going to be turning the microphone over to our consultant, Simone Collins. They're joining us online via Zoom. And hopefully, Bill, if you can hear us, you can take the lead from here.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Nick?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Supervisors, thank you for selecting Simone Collins' team. I'm going to give a very short presentation. This will be our final scheduled public meeting. If there's any technical questions that you want to bring up after this, you can bring it up with us directly through Nick and Stephanie. I'll try to answer anything I can tonight, but I just want to spend about 5 minutes and then open it up. So it was a great process. It took a year. Next, please, Nick. It was 12 months. This is where we are today. It's the end of the project. The draft has been out to public comment for at least 30 days, and so all those comments are incorporated. If there's any final comments that the supervisors would like to make, we'd be happy to make them and then publish the final. Next. There was a very good public involvement process. There were a lot of different ways that people got involved. There was a committee, very strong committee, 3 public meetings. We had 9 key person interviews. There was an online survey, which was in-depth and specific for the township. There was 287 total responses. And then the map you see on the bottom right is a tool, online tool, that lets people say where they travel, what they like, if there's issues, and map it directly online. It's called wiki mapping. And so that's a resource that can continue for the township. Next. All kinds of data surveyed, broken down by household and demographics, and then also identifying key locations and destinations where people like to travel. So parks, retail, these aren't surprising, but they were confirmed by the public survey. Next, please. And what were people talking about? So we made a list and then tried to prioritize those with the committee. You can see that some of the concerns are about existing parking, or maintenance of streets, or connection to trails, or vehicle speeds, SEPTA bus stations, crosswalks, missing sidewalk segments. Those are all things that you know, but this study starts to, well, it goes a long way towards quantifying them and also putting cost to them. Next, please. So what we did was we created a toolbox, and what you're seeing is different icons for different types of tools that can make ped and bike transportation more safe. And it goes all the way from a standard sidewalk to a bridge or a tunnel, large structures. But in the middle, there's all kinds of different tools that are used by traffic engineers and landscape architects to make thoroughfares multimodal and safe. Next. And so when you take a look at the mapping, we've identified those places and we locate the icons where those improvements would be made. And then there were also 2 advanced investigations that were confirmed by the committee and the staff. And one was Business Route 1, and that's the highlighted corridor in the map. And below that, you'll see examples of different types of photo simulations where you can get an idea of what it would take to connect the walkway through a certain area or bridge a small creek to make a pedestrian connection. Next, please. And here's another one, the Woodburn corridor from Woodside Avenue in both directions. This photo sim shows the relieving of traffic and actually the opening of traffic to multimodal, pedestrian and bike, if another tube was put through the elevated rail grade. This is a big project, but this report is the place to identify for future needs. Next. So the mapping is done in 6 segments, and the key is up in the right-hand corner. It shows the 6 sheets, and sheet 4 is highlighted, and it shows up in this drawing. And then we gave you a blow up to show you how the icons work. And in this case, we're showing the different improvements that can be done surrounding the Oxford Valley Mall. Next. And these are some sample pages from the report. You can see it's very graphic. It's very condensed. It's for a technical document, it's easy to read, it's easy to navigate. And that was done intentionally because we'd like people to use it and not just sit on the shelf. That's, reports aren't really on the shelf anymore, but this is accessible online and it's easy to use. Next. What we did was we took the areas and tried to make them contiguous and rational areas where we could do costing. So on this map to the right, you'll see that some of the cost areas are roadway corridors and some of them are large blocks. And this made sense where the corridors were the primary element or where the blocks had different systems running through them. And so for each one, there's different improvements down the left-hand side, and these are all done in a database file that is updatable. But the areas are costed for all 12 in this way. So you can see they're itemized. There's a takeoff for lineal distance or quantities. There's unit costs that can be updated. And then there's total costs that were calculated for 2023. Next. So for a sample area in 3, you'll see that for a subtotal of $1.8 million, there are different elements in this area 3. And if you did them all, it would be 1.8. But that's usually not the way this works. The value of these cost estimates is that they're by quantity and they're updatable, but different elements under each area can be done in different phases. And so the costs all aren't incurred at once, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Next. And then this is a sample where we started showing you costs for areas 1 through 4. Next, please. And this is a summary for all 12 areas. And when you look at the total cost, it's at $27.6 million. And what's important about this is that these costs will not be all at once. They'll be over years. Probably everything on this list could not be done even in 10 years. But the idea is to get it documented so that when different projects come up, different funds become available, different partners want to work with the township, you're ready. And you can take this as a palette of options and put together the very specific projects you would like to see, because each improvement is itemized. Next. And then, I don't know why it's blinking. Is it blinking for everyone? Nick, are you still there?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Try that.
Okay. Yeah, we're almost done here. But the idea that this project gives the township its next tool for the multimodal improvements. Middletown Township has a great track record of finding partners and leveraging funds from other sources. And so these improvements are no different. The idea is to use the township capital when it's budgeted as a strategic leverage for other grants. And township already does this, does it every year. And so most programs require a match. Township does the administration for the grants. And because these multimodal projects touch on all different aspects of society, there's an opportunity where a transportation grant can match a recreation grant, stormwater, environmental, depending on which elements you want to put into that year's project. So the grants availability right now, the township has a lot of options. Also, another strategy is to include select improvements with private redevelopment projects. And this is, the township's also doing this, but where improvements are going in, you build that segment of sidewalk, you build the crosswalks. This report tells you where they're needed. And then another strategy, and we'll close with this strategy, is to be ready for when Bucks County or PennDOT or SEPTA does their projects. The township has this report to say, we know that this is what we want. We think these elements can be included in your plans. Next, please. And I want to close here and just thank Stephanie and Nick and the township staff. You had a really terrific committee, and we thank everyone there. And thank you for the opportunity to serve the township. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. I just want to also thank all the members that served on the committee. I know Supervisor Corporal and Kane sat on this committee, as well as members of our various boards and some residents as well. So this is a super comprehensive plan, and I'm really grateful that you guys were able to work in such a way to get something done that we can use for years to come as we create new plans moving forward. So if there's any questions or any other comments? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
A move to approve Resolution 23-33, R, adopting the Middletown Township Multimodal Improvement Plan.
Second?
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Vallon. Thank you, Mr. Collins, if you're still there.
Thank you.
I will move on to other business now. I'll start with Mr. Kessler.
Nothing to add for this evening. Just wanted to wish everyone a happy holidays and New Year.
Thank you. Mr. Valla?
I concur. Happy holidays, everybody.
Mr. Esposito?
I just wanted to announce that the board did hold an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss litigation and personnel matters, and also say happy holidays and happy New Year to everybody.
Ms. Giolinkos?
I would like to introduce the board and the community to our new public information officer, Elizabeth Lawson, who's in the back. Liz started with us the Monday after Thanksgiving, and so you may have noticed some changes to our social media, and we are happy to have her aboard. Thanks.
Supervisor Hannah?
I just want to say happy holidays to everyone.
Supervisor Kane?
Happy holidays. I wanted to thank everyone on the team that hosted the open house this past week. My family had a wonderful time. So I hope everyone who was able to come out also enjoyed themselves. But it was a lot of work, and the team puts in a lot of effort. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Corporal?
Just want to say happy holidays, happy New Year, and for everybody to be safe.
Supervisor Kizak?
I'll just take the opportunity to, again, thank Don Harris and Mike McGuffin for their services to the township. They really were invaluable, both of them in their roles. I also want to, in connection with the memorandum agreement with the PBA, I want to thank Ms. Dioli-Cools and Mr. Valla and the members of the PBA negotiating team. It's a lot of work to come to an agreement like that, and it's very important. And I think this one is mutually beneficial for the township and for the police officers. So thank you to all of them for their hard work. And I'll just wish everyone happy holidays and a happy New Year.
I just want to say happy holidays to everyone and happy New Year. And I want to thank everyone for a great year. I know that this year had some different and unexpected challenges. And I know that sometimes they were very time-consuming. And I just wanted to say thank you for your efforts on behalf of the board, but also on behalf of the residents. You guys truly go above and beyond, and I'm super grateful to be able to call you all colleagues and be part of something so very special. So I just wanted to say thank you, and also the holiday open house, as Supervisor Kane said, was wonderful. So thank you to the DPW staff, the township staff, Joanne, Mr. Capera, for putting on a very great event. And I want to say that the tree out front with the reindeers looks fabulous and beautiful. So thank you for arranging that. So with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second? Motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Happy New Year, everybody.